Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all had a green day if you traded. I'm going to make my market recap a little bit earlier today. I've things I have to take care of. So I'll go over my daily plan and the live market commentary I provided through StockTwits. If you don't already follow me there, there'll be a link in the description. But it's the same as here. It is ChocolateLabTrading. Before getting into the daily plan, we'll talk about the overnight session. If you're familiar, we've had this sell zone for the past few days now that has not been interacted yet. And during the overnight session, it provided a perfect short. So let me pull up the full image. All right. So why do I call this a perfect short? So this is where we're looking for sellers to be active, and here they are. Sellers, sellers, continued sellers, but we have no stop run yet. We need to take some liquidity, and that's exactly what happens here. You see the buying imbalance all the way up. Why is it a buying imbalance? It's because all these guys who are short are forced to cover, which are buys. So that's a buying imbalance, and as soon as all their stops are ran, you could see the size of the orders here are very, very small compared to over here on these volume nodes, and that is bid off. You see on the top of here too, there's absolutely no bid. 15-point pullback. And it actually gives you the perfect exit too. So you see here you have a zero print, but you just ran liquidity, so you're still looking for a sell. Sellers are active here. We closed the candle right there, so we're waiting for this next open candle, see if a bid appears, see if a bid's going to appear where it has in the past candle. It hasn't. Sellers are moving down, you see. They're moving an offer down. And on this candle close, you can see it closes above all the volume with bid exhaustion. You see how small this number is compared to these. Buying imbalance. If you didn't already take profits, that is your sign to either take profits or exit the trade. You could take some profit, wait till the next candle, and look at that. Thin volume all the way up, cut the trade. So that was the overnight session that provided that. So let's get into my daily plan today. And usually if you follow me on StockTwits, you'll know when I do daily plans are usually 3 to 5 steps, and today was only 2 steps. I looked at the TPO and the daily footprint. So here's what I said. Creating daily plan, step 1, looking at the overnight TPO. See the B-shaped distribution highlighted from the overnight session, telling, but there's something more revealing that we could take from this chart. Can you see it? We'll go over in detail now. So I've spoken about in the past few days on the market recaps. We've had balance down here. Market was happy to chop down here for a few days. Then we ran the liquidity, ran the stops of everyone who was buying down here, and that's when we get to test higher. We built balance above. You could see from the value area high, value area low, we are now above previous balance. And then this was yesterday's cash session, and we dipped back in. We filled some single prints on the way down, and we built balance higher. So balance is accepting higher. And what was so revealing about last night's session is that we held yesterday's cash session's value area high. So we're just accepting value higher. And one more thing not pictured in this chart that is also important. So looking at this chart, this was the few day balance I was just talking about. We're accepting balance higher. And we're going to go to a previous place where balance is accepted once we break out of down here now. And you could see we had a 2-day balance over here, and that lines up right here. You could see we had a value area high, and this right here, this was what was so telling about last night's volume profile, is that we came up yesterday into a previous balance area, could not really accept balance higher, but the overnight session did. Value accepted. The market accepted value over previous value, so we have to go to the next logical area. which is right here. And that's where we came to, and I was expecting a little overshoot, fill some single prints, and for a move down. So yeah, let's continue on with the live commentary, or the daily plan sale rather. So that was what we gathered from the TPO, and looking at the daily footprint, I highlighted these two candles, said this pretty much tells you all what you need to know. You see we have our P-shaped distribution, sellers super heavy at the highs, and then with yesterday's session we dipped and closed above the majority of not only yesterday's volume but this volume. What does that mean? That means a lot of volume is underwater, so chances are we continue upwards. That's why we have this slow movement today. This is large hands being liquidated right here. All these guys who tried selling, selling a balance, and there's just these really, really big volume nodes of so many contracts, fuels the move up, and this is just them stopping out. We accepted balance, and this was, I believe, the sell zone for the daily plan, but we'll get there next. Yep, okay. So I said very cautious buy zone. Very cautious, just pretty much a scalp, if anything, here. I definitely would not take a trade here unless the footprint was screaming at me. And this valid buy zone. So why this? Well, if we go back to our TPO, we could look for at the open, since we're building balance higher, we could look for a test of yesterday's cash sessions value area high. If we accept over it, that means we have to go look for more value to a new balance area. So that would be a valid trade. That was the reason for this. And I said very cautious because it doesn't guarantee that we will accept value here and go upwards. We might not, and then crash into yesterday's value, go test yesterday's point of control or yesterday's value area low. So very cautious. You need to know what you're looking for on the footprint for sure. So that was the daily plan. So this was the opening tape, the 30-minute chart, and you had sellers trying to sell at the open. We have this very large volume node buying in balance at the bottom, and this is what a stop run is, pops over them, and this, you usually see the tape speed up, you see a large volume node build out, that is all these sellers being stopped out. Very good to know this, and wait for that if you're looking for certain trades for sure. And this was temporary exhaustion. All those people that were stopped out tried once again right here, and they got pushed one more time, and you get your key up here. These small prints, not a lot of contracts were able to be transacted up here, and that's temporary exhaustion, and we got about a 10-point pullback or $500 a contract on the E-mini. And this was on the 4-hour chart. We got a nice zero print, another exhaustion signal. And I tried to have people look at this 5-minute chart, and a lot of people were saying that we're chopping. Well, I guess you can say we're chopping, but let me pull up a bigger picture of this. All right. So while we look at this 5-minute chart, it certainly does look like we're chopping, but we could gather a lot of intel here. We have sellers, so clear resistance, and we have a bid here, little stop run below. As you can see, zero print exhaustion coming back up, and we're going to test these sellers, see if they're serious, or either we move a bid with a buying imbalance all the way up and we go up, or we run stops and it'll be the same thing right here but on the opposite end and continue. This chop is very important to look at. This is a war between buyers and sellers, and you have to see on your 5-minute chart, on your larger time frames like a 34-hour daily candle, you have to see who's winning the war, who is adding to their positions, who's chipping away at delta. There's a lot of telltale signs so that you could gather a bias, and maybe if this was an original level that you were looking short, you take it originally, it's coming back up, but as we're coming back up, you see that sellers aren't doing what they have to do on the delta, on the footprint, they're not adding to the position enough. You know that your sell zone is invalid. Take your coin that you collected originally and let it go. So the footprint can be a great tool to avoid trades that are no longer valid. And this is another stop run. So a lot of people trying to short, as you can see here. This is a lot of volume that is now trapped. Look how thin this volume is. I believe I pointed this out here. That arrow pointing to the thin volume nodes, that is shorts tripping over themselves to get out. In simple terms, this is a stop run. Excuse me. All these shorts have to cover, and they're marketing out of their shorts, and that's this thin volume. They're pretty much sweeping the book of all the offers, tripping over each other to exit. I pointed out another single print after the stop run. That's exhaustion of all the sellers, all being stopped out, and you do very often see nice pullbacks. For potential scalps, I mentioned yesterday, I myself do not scalp. I prefer to try to play for bigger moves, but scalping with the footprint is certainly easier than a bear candlestick, at least in my opinion. So now we flip to the daily, and all these people that were trying to short, and this is also volume from the overnight session that we have here, once we pop above, they are underwater. So with the footprint, this allows you to know that you should not be trying to catch a top when you have all this volume trapped. What you're going to want to see is a volume node like this. As you can see, it's building out. You're going to want to see this volume node build out a lot more. 20,000 contracts would be fine if this was an overnight session and maybe we had, 7,500, 10,000 contracts trapped below. Then yeah, we could look for a short. But when we have, 140 plus contracts or 140,000 contracts plus towards the bottom that are all trapped, you're going to want to see these people be stopped out of their full positions. Just because we have a selling imbalance, and even though it's 21,000 contracts, there's a lot more that needs to be done by sellers to get a move down. So I was just pointing this out throughout the day, continuing to try to tell people, wait for these volume nodes to build out. Do not look for a short until you know market makers are on your side. You need to see the big hands are on your side to take a trade, or else you get steamrolled. And you could see that the buyers were forcing a bid up. These sellers just could not catch a break at this point in the day. This was at around 10:30. And sellers finally are just slowly building bid. The volume, this was not as volatile, obviously, as yesterday. So it's going to take a little longer to get the necessary volume to turn the ship around. And just updating, they're still selling, getting slightly bigger. And here we are now, it's starting to look a lot better. And I believe I said sellers still building out their volume nodes, they need to chip away and eventually remove the buying imbalance right below for more downside. What was I talking about? This buying imbalance, this is the bull's temporary line in the sand at this point in the day. If we go trade into this volume node, we'll likely trade this one pretty quick since this is so thin. We'll chop around here for a little bit, fill out this volume node, and when we do fill out this volume node right here, buyers will chip away at this buying imbalance. So that's one scenario, or if bulls do their job at their buying imbalance volume node, you'll see through the delta right here that they're going to be adding to their position. This volume node will get bigger, and they're going to put the pressure back on the bears to put a cap on the buying. And yeah, that is everything. So as I said, I had to leave the desk a little bit earlier today. If you don't follow me already, here's my stock twits. I'll leave a link in the description. And one more thing, if you're still watching, thank you. I've had a lot of people reach out to me asking if I had a room or Discord. I do not, but if this is something that people are interested in and I could kind of organize everything and create courses and really dive into the nitty gritty of footprint and market structure, TPO, Delta, everything I use, please contact me. This is my email. I'll also leave that in the description, and I will see you guys tomorrow in the next recap.